The first morning in my new home felt like stepping into a life I wasn't sure I deserved. I walked out onto the weathered wooden dock with a steaming cup of coffee, watching the lake glow faintly under the early sun. I hadn't unpacked a single box, but the water didn't care. It welcomed me instantly, calm, silver, stretching across the landscape like a quiet promise. The house still smelled like dust and old wood, unfamiliar and empty, but the lake felt alive, breathing in slow ripples tapping against the shoreline I now owned. I stood there breathing that peace in, unaware that my morning was seconds away from being shattered by someone who believed the lake belonged to her. The crunch of gravel behind me snapped the calm like a twig. I turned to see a woman in a stiff blazer marching down my path, as if she owned every inch of land her heels touched. Her face was tight, determined, and her sunglasses reflected the water like she was inspecting it for imperfections. She pointed her clipboard at me like a weapon. "You can't sit on that dock," she barked. I blinked, unsure I'd heard right. "Sorry," she scoffed. "This is HOA property. Crescent Ridge Lake access is restricted to members only. You're trespassing, and you owe 7 years of unpaid lake fees." Before I could respond, she started snapping photos of my dock, my coffee, my shoes, narrating each violation with the confidence of someone issuing federal charges. My peaceful morning evaporated instantly. She didn't leave. Instead, she paced my shoreline, muttering regulations and rule numbers that sounded completely made up. When I asked calmly who owned the lake, she lifted her chin. "The HOA controls the water, the shoreline, and every inch of access here, which means I control it." I asked her to show me the documents she kept quoting. She hugged her clipboard to her chest dramatically. "These are internal HOA files. You're not authorized to see them." Then she turned away smugly, absolutely convinced she ruled the lake. The confidence was so intense, I almost questioned myself, almost. When she finally left, I walked inside and pulled out the thick envelope my attorney had sent after closing. I flipped through the dry legal paragraphs until the words hit me like a spotlight. Full ownership of the entire lakebed, all submerged lands, complete shoreline rights. Not shared, not partial, mine. I stared at the document, reading the lines over and over. Karen hadn't misunderstood or misread something. She had zero legal claim to the lake, none. She had marched onto the dock of the person who literally owned the water under her feet. I laughed, but the humor faded quickly when I realized what her behavior meant. If she confronted me this aggressively on day one, how many neighbors had she bullied before me? The next morning, things escalated. I heard voices outside, loud, authoritative voices. So I stepped out to find Karen again, this time flanked by 2 bulky men in matching polo shirts with embroidered shield logos. "Lake Enforcement Unit," she announced like she'd brought federal agents. One man lifted a camera. "Documenting violations," he said. "Violations of my own property, apparently." Karen pointed sharply at my dock. "Unregistered structure. Non-compliant shoreline stones. Illegal kayak placement." She instructed her men to add a $500 fine and note my refusal to cooperate, threatening forced removal. Before I could speak, a neighbor hurried over, looking nervous. "Don't let her scare you," he whispered. "She's been scamming everyone for years." Karen snapped at him to leave, but he ignored her. "Go to the county office," he told me. I drove straight to the county building. A clerk typed the HOA name into her computer. She frowned. Typed again. "There's no homeowners association registered under that name," she said. "No covenants. No lake ownership. Nothing." The air left my lungs. I asked about the lake. "Only one owner holds the lake bed," she said. "And it isn't an HOA." I showed her my deed. She nodded. "Yes, that's you." On my way out, I ran into the same neighbor, Daniel. He handed me a folder overflowing with violation letters, dock fees, and lake access charges. None had a county seal, code, or legal reference. All were fake. Karen had forced neighbors to pay thousands using forged documents and threats. This wasn't confusion. This was a deliberate scam. Back home, I spread every document across my table like puzzle pieces. Individually, they were suspicious, but together they formed a clear image. Fake rules, fake violations, fake authority, real money. One by one, neighbors came forward, sharing their own stories. Some paid hundreds, others thousands, all out of fear. I scanned receipts, emails, letters, every threat she'd ever sent. Then I built a timeline of her entire operation, how she seized fake control of the lake, bullied the community, and forged authority piece by piece. By the time the sun set, the folder on my table held enough evidence to tear down everything Karen had built. And I already knew exactly how to expose her. In front of the entire community she had manipulated for years.